I can go into the most intense and scariest time that really questioned a lot of my thought aspects into the spiritual world. And that would be the first time I saw the brutality of evil. And I
Mhm.
think that really shocked me. At the time, I was only 16. So it was a few years into the training program. And we were called to go to this home. And this home, we were told was that there was really dark presences, really demonic. And us as young medicine people, young warriors, we were told to go into this home and we were to help out this family. And we show up. It was an emergency call. We got actually from the police department. They
Wow.
called us, and there was three of us. I remember there went three guardians that went, three younger guardians, and then there was two of our elders that went with us. So we all went in, and I remember I was the first to go in. There's a bunch of police cars everywhere, and it's like a trailer. You can imagine a trailer. It's at night, and there was just like flickering lights inside, and it was just wildly just you just feel the energy of the area. The police were too scared to go in, but they knew they had to. They said, "You guys go in first, and we'll follow you." We're like, "Okay."
Send the
So
key.
we go in and we're decked out with our armor because we have our special protections that we have. And at the time, we knew that this was very intense. And so they saw us that, okay, do you need bulletproof vests? It's like, no, we have our stuff right here. We'll be all right. Okay. I remember grabbing that doorknob. And when I grabbed that doorknob, it felt like a fire. And what I was taught is no matter what, you always, once you initiate contact, you follow through with that contact. So it burned. And I just remember heat in my hand. But I twisted that doorknob and I opened the door, pushed it with my hand, and then I let in with my shoulder and my on my arm. They had that what we call el titonse, which is like a small shield. And so I go in with that at first, and behind me was the two guardians that were the two younger ones that were there, and then the two elders, and then the police were behind them. We went in, and I remember the first thing that hit me was the smell, and it
Mhm.
was a rotting, decaying smell. And I was like, "What's going on?" And then I just hear a ringing in my ear, loud, loud ringing. As I go in, I see in front of me there's a couch, a living room, and there's a lamp on the right hand side. To the left was the kitchen, but in the living room was the only thing that was kind of lit up. And it scares me, and I still have images of it to this day. A woman sitting there and on the floor between the couch and a TV. She's sitting there, just a bunch of blood over her, and she's holding two things separately like this. She's holding it. In one hand, she has a head, and the other hand, she has a body. And she's just sitting there and she's like crying and laughing at the same time. And she's holding an infant, a brand new baby, and she's holding it. And that initial shock factor to a 16-year-old boy, I was like, what's going on? And in my head, I was like, is that just a doll? I hope that's just a doll. And she's holding it, crying, laughing. And then I move in more. I'm like, the police need to get in. I don't know what to do with the situation. I need to get in. And so I pushed my way further into the room, and behind me, I heard something smash. And I turned and I saw a man pushed up against a wall. And there's no in the kitchen, but he was pushed up against the wall and twisted up into like where the cupboards are and above the sink. And I immediately went to that because that's where the action was. And I had to like try to see if there was something pushing him up against there. So I went to that and I was able to get him down, and we were able to start singing the songs and everything. And as we're singing the songs, all the lights went on, broke the lights, and she gets up and she actually starts throwing the parts of the baby at us.
Oh my god.
And it was wild, intense, just a lot of stuff happened there. And I'll just break it down real quick. We took care of the situation. A lot of wild paranormal poltergeist activity happened. We had to do a full, at least lockdown exorcism, what we call it, at least to be able to get her to be taken away to custody, and at least us assess the whole situation. Like, we just went into a murder of a young baby here. Sacrifice more than likely is what we came out to see. And just the spirits, evil spirits, and they're running rampant. And so we had to just control and contain the situation. We controlled and contained the situation. We put everyone together. The police, once they saw what was going on, a lot of them ran out, and we just handled everything. Once everything calmed down, the police were able to go in, and we were able to actually they were did their whole thing with the whole investigation. There's a whole still case file going on with that. But dealing with that, I remember sitting out afterwards, and after having to hold her down a couple times and just dealing with all the blood, dealing with the maniacal evil that was there, and I had that on me, and I felt disgusted having that on me. I'm like, this is literal just darkness, everything that happened. And as a 16-year-old boy, that's the first time seeing it wasn't my first time seeing death, but it was my first time seeing evil act out in a way that it caused innocent people's harm and death. And to see the evil that is there in the world, it was something to me that's like, okay, this is why I'm doing this, is because if let loose, these things can do unspeakable horrors and unspeakable harm onto people. And it's still happening every day. There's darkness out there influencing people. And then there's even just people just losing their minds, unfortunately. And it's a tough, scary world we live in. But that moment right there really made me question humanity. It was like, okay, what drove a person to be able to accept something like this and want this in their home and want this in their life? And because the evidence that came up beforehand was she wasn't very, they weren't getting anything, they weren't getting jobs, they were a very pitiful family, and she was resorting to wanting to accept help from darkness, and that's what she ended up doing. And she tried to go forward and make that sacrifice, and it didn't work out, not at all.
And
And
it so rarely does.